Have you ever dreamed about moving to Spain, slowing your life down, where you appreciate the surroundings more than the material things, where you work to live and not the way around? For me, the dream started many years ago. When I used to visit Spain, I used to find myself in these lively plazas, eating tapas and watching children play while adults sit on the table chatting away, unhurried, present and joyful. I knew I didn't want this to be just a long weekend. This is the life I wanted to live forever. And I actually started the process of moving to Spain in 2015. But due to paperwork and bureaucracy and uncertainty, I gave up. Fast forward 10 years, I'm here in Spain, living my life, and I'm sure you can do too. Spain is experiencing a historic wave of newcomers. Last year alone, nearly 200,000 people made the move to call this country home. That surge has fueled Spain's rise as one of the fastest growing major economies in the world. With record-breaking tourism on top, the housing market is feeling the squeeze. The government has stepped in, shutting down tens and thousands of illegal Airbnbs and even floating bold measures like 100% property tax for people who do not live in Spain or are not from the EU. The famous golden visa may have been gone, but in place, we are seeing longer visas, legalization pathways for irregular residents, and new options for those ready to build their life here. In this video, we'll break down what's really possible in 2026. From visas and lifestyles to changes you should be preparing for. And we'll hear from our special guest, a mother and a relocation expert who's helped families make the leap successfully. So if you've been on the fence, wondering if 2026 is your year to move to Spain, this might just give you the clarity you need.
Please note that the purpose of this video is informative and we are not providing professional advice. For any individual case, we highly recommend you to reach out to a professional gestor. If you're coming from the EU, it's quite straightforward. All you have to do is just go to the city hall, register yourself and apply for your NIE and your TIE and pick up the card in the local police station.
If you're coming from outside the EU, you have a few options. The main two options are non-lucrative visas and digital nomad visas. So let's jump right into non-lucrative visa. Non-lucrative visa is for somebody who has a passive income. For example, if you are retired, if you have a rental income or investment income coming in, the financial requirement to prove that you can qualify for non-lucrative visa is based on IPREM. You need to show that you have a passive income of 4 times of Spanish annual IPREM. IPREM in Spain hasn't changed since 2023. There have been talks to increase them about 3% next year, but it's yet to see if it's going to happen next year. So adjust your figures accordingly. You also need to have a clean criminal record and a health insurance.
Digital nomad visa is a very popular visa in Spain, and the requirements for 2026 haven't changed that much, apart from the Spanish minimum wage, which will be changing in 2026. As a refresher, if you want to apply for a digital nomad visa, you need to work remotely for a foreign company. If you want to work for a Spanish company, you cannot exceed your professional activity by more than 20%. Also, when applying for the visa, you need to demonstrate you have at least 3 months of experience with a foreign company. To qualify, the financial requirements are that your salary has to be at least 200% of the minimal salary in Spain, which for 2026 has been set for approximately 1,656 euros. If you want to bring a dependent with you, for the first dependent it will be 75% of that, and for each dependent consecutively will be 25%. You also need to demonstrate that you have a private health insurance that will not only cover you but all your dependents. You can also apply for a working visa, however it will be your employer most of the time covering the cost of that visa, and for that reason, normally in these situations it's for the high-end jobs that they pay you very well, and also the competition will be greater. For normal jobs it's a lot harder because priority are given to locals.
There are other types of visas as well, for example, entrepreneur visa, family reunification visa, and intercompany transfer visas as well. But these are the most popular ones.
As you probably know, the Golden Visa program was ended earlier this year, to be specific in April 2025. So no more you can invest in property on a business in Spain to qualify to obtain it.
Once you know you qualify to come to Spain, the next question is obviously, where would you live in Spain? But before that, it's time to meet our special guest. We're here to see Meg. She's from the US, but recently she's moved from Madrid to Costa del Sol. And we think she's the perfect person to share her experience about moving to Spain. Hi, hola.
Oh, Meg, encantada.
Oh, encantado.
This is Nacho.
Hello, Nacho. Oh, don't go run
Nacho.
away.
There, please.
Come on. That's good. How you doing?
Good. Come on in, guys. I'm Meg James. I am a wife and mom to 2 boys, ages 13, crazy, and 10, and Nachito, my dog from Madrid. And so our American family chose to take a gap year in Madrid, gosh, in 2023. We never came back. Don't tell my mom that we may not come back long term. But we moved now to the Costa del Sol. After 2 years, we wanted a change of pace. We wanted to bike to school. We wanted to walk the Paseo. And so this is so different to us than Madrid, right? We were city living, but we're excited to have a little more space and have a place that we can hopefully raise our boys in.
Out of all the countries in the world, why do you choose Spain?
Well, I let my parents know in February of 2023, when it was time for us that we decided to leave the US, that we were moving to Nicaragua. And my dad said, the heck you are. So because it's maybe not as safe or maybe not as recommended for American families, we ended up in Spain because it had that perfect combination of learning Spanish and full immersion, but also the safety, the culture, and the ability to easily travel around.
Did you visit Spain? Because it's a big move, moving all across the Atlantic to come to Europe.
Yeah.
And I've lived in America myself for a while, and it's very different.
Yes.
The mentality, the pace of life, especially in Spain. And did you come here beforehand just to have like a taste, or was it like full on and moving there?
So we had never visited, but we decided to spend 30 days in Tenerife in the Canary Islands. So thinking back, of course we were going to end up moving to Spain because Tenerife is gorgeous. The Canary Islands are insane. And so we came for 30 days to do a trial, and we loved it so much that we actually ended up staying. We went back to get our visas, unenrolled our kids from school in the US, and went ahead and was back 6 weeks later living in Madrid.
Wow, that sounds like a dream for many people out there. And you mentioned the word visa, and that word really scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
So how did you find the visa to move to Spain from the US?
Yeah, so there's so many different ways that you can come. Most families try to come on a digital nomad visa, just a great way that you'd be able to use a business, that whether it's online or maybe your US company would send you. Now, the honest truth is that it's really hard to find employment in Spain. So a lot of people go on the internet and they look for jobs in Spain, but the salary can be 70 to 80% less. And so the truth of the matter is a cheat code is trying to find some kind of way to work remotely. If that's not the case, you don't have to give up hope. We came on volunteer visas, so we were able to volunteer at our kids' school and have a year stay in Spain. You can also learn a Spanish language. 1 hour per week, you can learn Spanish and have your whole family come to Spain.
So I never heard of the volunteer visa. What is that about?
Yeah, so basically when I was desperate to move our family back to Spain and quickly, and we didn't have any online businesses, I contacted the American school we were moving to in Madrid and said, is there any way that we could come and serve at your school? It was a Christian school. Could we come and just help? My husband did IT because that's his background. I did staff and marketing because that's my background. And because they had a spot, we were able to come and just volunteer and then live in Spain that way. So digital nomad visa is obviously a work visa.
Yeah.
Ours said very clearly, no trabajo. So we were not able to bring in any money in Spain. However, on the volunteer and the student visa, many people don't know this, but you can actually bring in US income. So if you have some kind of online business or a hobby business in the US or renting a home in the US, you can bring in revenue that way.
Oh, that's good. That's good. At least you can survive and maintain your
100%.
family, because when you mentioned the word volunteering, say, well, you have a family to feed, so how can you survive? That's a very good point.
Right.
And also, I believe my understanding that you actually help a lot of people. So it looks like you're very knowledgeable of what you're talking about. So you do this as a living, or you help a lot of people?
Yeah, so, I knew nothing, to be honest. It was, August of 2023. I was just scouring Google and Facebook groups and just felt completely overwhelmed. YouTube, I just didn't know where to turn. And so I was getting a lot of bad advice, honestly, just from different groups. And I had a couple of bad lawyer experiences in the beginning. And so I just decided I wanted to tell the story, but in an authentic mom way. And so I have a saying that I say, you don't need to talk to an attorney, you need to talk to a mom who's done it. And so who helped me and my family move to Spain was a mom who had lived in Madrid. When it came time to move, I knew that moms have the tools that they need to help other families move. And so I started a way to be a coach. So I'm a Move to Spain coach. I run a business, Go and Do Good LLC, which is my Instagram handle. And I have helped about 400 American families since June of 2024 navigate the questions that they have. Like, what is it? What is a visa, right? These questions that American families don't know where to start. What are the taxes?
You mentioned a word that really scares me, and it's taxes.
See?
And I'm from Spain, I'm from Cadiz originally, and I lived in the UK for 18 years. And the tax system in the UK is a lot more relaxed than you see here in Spain. I don't know about the tax system in the US, but I'm sure that the Spanish one is either as complicated or
Worse.
or even worse.
Worse, yeah. You know, people think automatically they hear about David Beckham and the Beckham Law.
Yeah.
And they think, oh good, I work at home, I'm gonna be eligible for the Beckham Law. And the truth of the matter is most Americans, so people from the US, do not qualify. So because people think that they qualify for the Beckham Law, they end up being really disappointed and then overwhelmed, like, well, wait a minute, am I gonna go on Google and learn that I'm gonna pay 40% of my worldwide income living in Spain? Like, this is beautiful, but is it worth paying 40% of your worldwide income? And so I have a trusted tax partner that we have used since our Madrid days that I just highly recommend. The key is having a really good either gestor or tax person here that understands US salaries and American lifestyle. Because it's very different than those who maybe have only worked in Spain or have Spanish income. And so if you have someone who's qualified to help you, they can help you walk through the process. It's less overwhelming. And honestly, with all of our deductions and things, we're looking at paying closer to 30%. So more manageable, but you have to remember too, it includes medical insurance. So by the time you lay everything out and you have this lifestyle, it really could still be worth it for your family.
What about safety in Spain? Because I keep hearing in the US every now and then that shootings and situations. We don't really hear that in Spain, but there might be other problems that you might have experienced.
Yeah, you know, I think this is probably the number one asked question to me as a mom of elementary and middle school age kids, right? Like, are the schools safe? You know, because the truth of the matter is the US does have an epic problem right now with school shootings. And so the truth of the matter is I do have so much more peace raising our kids here and having them go to school here. You know, their school is open air and they have science just sitting outside. And at the end of the school day, they open the doors and all the parents come in and we talk to each other and we go into their classroom and bring them out. Like, it feels like the 90s in the US and how it should be. And I love that about it. And in general, even riding the metro in Madrid to now living in the suburbs of Spain, I do find it to be just so much safer in general. You know, you still have to be aware of petty theft. We've had scooters stolen, electric scooters stolen in Madrid, bikes and things. You know, there's a lot of petty theft. If you leave something out, it will be gone. Pickpocketing, right? It was very common in Madrid, especially. So you just have to still be an aware traveler. If you're someone who's moving here, you just have to be aware of your items, but it's not as big of a crime as you see in the US. Our son will get on his scooter and do errands himself. He walks to the grocery store to get kitchen spray when I run out, right? I give him €1 and he does it. Like, he just gets to be a kid here, right? Our kids just get to be kids. And the things that, the pressures, there's other things in the US, other agendas that are put on kids younger and younger. And just, it helps parents get to decide what their story is here. And so if you're someone who's worried about safety, which honestly is the number one thing that people contact me about these days, I can guarantee you that it does feel safer here.
I believe you lived in Madrid for a couple of years. It's a beautiful place and it's a city. But you moved from the capital of Spain to Costa del Sol. Why that?
It's such a change. So it's only been 3 months since we've been in the Costa del Sol. And at first we were like, oh my gosh, we don't have to take our dog up and down the elevator to go to the bathroom. Like, this is like luxury. And we're in a casita here, a chalet. So it's different, right? It's not as big as an American home, but we have the comforts now of having an office or, you know, 3 bedrooms or just a bigger space. Now it comes with pros and cons because the Costa del Sol is a little less walkable and navigable without a car. Where, you know, Madrid, I could just take public transportation or not be in a car during the day. So there's some things that are hard, but honestly, it's a beautiful place to raise kids. But the reason we made the move is because of schools. And so there are 3 kinds of schools in Spain, right? So there's public, there's concertados, which are like charter schools for American families, and then there are private schools. We did a private American school in Madrid because that's where we served, that's where we volunteered, we got our visa. So we stuck with that school. It was a great school, but maybe not for middle and high school for us, like secondary. So we said, it's time to make a change for middle high. Where could we go? Well, let's follow the sun. And so we believe that if American families are looking to move to Spain and they don't know where to start, finding the school first is pretty much one of the most important steps. Because I have families from the US that have their kids in Spanish school, public school here, and it's good. It's really good. It's been a good progress for them. They've seen change and immersion in Spanish, and the language has grown. Socially, it can be a little bit harder depending on your child. So for us, we're glad we stayed in the American curriculum. We go to the American school in Estepona here, so that's why we moved here. But you can still have your child learn Spanish without them going to a Spanish school. Our boys are now fluent in Spanish.
So do they teach Spanish in school as well?
Yeah, they have
or?
1 hour a day, and our older son still has Spanish history, so he's learning all the rivers and the provinces and things.
Right. So how do you find living in Madrid versus living here speaking Spanish, for example?
It's más difícil. Para mí, más difícil. In Madrid, we had opportunities to practice all day, every day. Even though we went to an American school, if I was going to the grocery store or a restaurant, like I knew it would be in Castellano Spanish the whole time.
Yeah.
Here it was a culture shock because you hear Spanish, right? But it's faster.
Yes.
And it's sung, not said.
Yes,
and the words are combined. And you also hear a lot of Russian or German or Irish. I mean, well, Irish is English, but you hear a lot of different languages.
Yes, yeah.
And so it's overwhelming to make that change.
Yeah.
So for us, we need to be intentional. That's why we live in a pueblo. So we live in this smaller town of the Costa del Sol. Because I think the more that you want to immerse, you can. I tell the families that I coach, the American families, that the cheat code a little bit is moving to the Costa del Sol because you find friends and community a little faster. Madrid was a little bit isolating for us because you're already in more of a high-rise kind of environment. And there are urbas or communities, but most people are Spanish speaking. So it's really hard you don't really have people in your apartment in Madrid because they're too small. And so if you're looking for community and that's essential to your family, then the Costa del Sol is a great place to start, learn the language, get comfortable, then maybe go elsewhere. For us, it worked well to start in Madrid and then move here because my husband and I are constantly getting better at Spanish every day, poco a poco. But our kids are fluent.
How do you find not being able to speak the language fluently, making friends or social life here?
Yeah, to be honest, with a longer term lens, because Madrid started as a gap year for us, so we were thinking short term. Now that it's longer term, Costa del Sol makes more sense for community for us. You hear English speakers, we're at an American school, so it's mostly English speaking children, where in Madrid, it was an American school, but it was still Spanish speaking families at that private school. And so, you don't need to have the language to come and make friends, but honestly, your friends are probably going to be other immigrants or expats from your home country because you have the same experience to relate to.
The bureaucracy in Spain is difficult, but I think it's even more difficult if you don't speak the language.
It is.
So,
confirmed.
So what do you think about the bureaucracy in Spain, not being able to speak the language when you first arrive?
It's really frustrating, and to be honest, it's less about the language and more about customer service. So not to be mean or direct, but the customer service is just a totally different experience than the US, right? So in the US, you take your dog into the bank and they ask if your children want a lollipop and if they could help you in any other way. In Spain, when you go to a bank, it's almost like you're bothering them. So I have learned that the bureaucracy is just part of the process, right? Like we have to calmly enter every situation. It may not even be completed, the task we're trying to do that day, but we take steps forward towards what we want to do. And that's why it's really important to have that good visa and tax and the good team to help you if you don't have a Spanish speaker in your house, because our lawyer helps us get our TIAs, sets the appointments for us to get the TIA. There are people that can help make your process a little bit easier.
Right. And when you say that they help you, do they help you because from the moment you decide to move to Spain until you actually move to Spain, so they help you throughout the process? Wow. Yeah,
they can have comprehensive packages, or for those that are more on a budget, you can DIY and learn to do it yourself. I've done both. I've gotten my own visa myself, and I've had this lawyer get the visa. So you have to figure out what works for you and your family and your budget and your time constraints and things. But if you're someone who wants the full package, you can get it. If you're someone who wants to try, you can certainly try it.
It's gonna be pricey to use the services to move to Spain?
I actually just shared about this on Instagram the other day because Americans complain about the cost of visa. It's about anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 for a family of $4 to $5 to move to Spain, get a 3-year visa. And Americans are like, that is so expensive, that's ridiculous. Well, they spend that to go on the Disney cruise for 4 days for a weekend. Right?
And it's your life.
So it's your life. It's, and it's very easy to renew a visa once you get the initial one.
Right.
So it's you're planting seeds towards your future. I also tell American families, don't feel like you need to just sell everything. Because, you may get here, there's no perfect country.
True.
So you may get here and be like, I miss this about the US. I miss my family. There's a medical problem. I need to get back. And you may regret, especially with kids, if you just kind of washed your hands of it.
Yeah.
And so maybe take it step by step. Go on a vision trip, then maybe rent, then maybe slowly decide if you want to rent out your house or sell. You don't have to decide your future now. You can just kind of go year by year.
comparing your life in the US versus your life here, on a day-to-day basis, how do you compare them?
I feel like there's less pressure to buy things here. You know, in the US, like our last name is James, we used to call it keeping up with the Jameses as a joke instead of the Joneses. Like you have to feel like you have to buy the next golf cart, the latest TV, you know, like you can never be happy. Like you have to keep buying things. Here we don't have that pressure. I mean, we're in a home that we rent and has other people's furniture. In the US, there's a lot of people buying things, right? And it feels almost like you're keeping up with one another in a bad way. But what I love about Spain is, you know, there's great stores here. I live El Corte Inglés for life, right? But you don't feel like you have to buy the latest thing, have the newest phone. And so it's a simpler life here. And that's something that I at least really appreciate raising my kids in. You know, my husband is the one who sacrificed the most because he had a very good US job, you know, stock options, bonus. He quit for us to be able to move to Spain. We asked them if we could relocate to Spain in August of 2023, and they said no. And so we had to make a decision, like, were we gonna just stay comfortable financially in the US with what worked? Or were we willing to walk away from it? And we're so glad that we quit. And we had to start over. We do now run 3 businesses and, you know, we're building them up. And I think we're honestly at a point now where we probably made what he did, you know, 2 years ago, but it just takes time. And so when someone says to me, like, is it worth the risk? I think it is worth the risk to move here, especially if it's on your heart to do so. You know, if it feels forced or you feel like you wouldn't be happy in Spain, you probably won't be. But if you go in with the mindset of like, this is gonna be an amazing experience for our family, for regardless however long it will be, it really will be. So I'm an open book to share our family story. I have an Instagram account where I share just daily the funny parts, the silly parts, the sad parts, the true parts of just raising our family here in Spain. As I said, this started as a gap year and we're now planning on raising our kids here from middle and high school. And so they might marry a Spanish person. Like this, I may be an abuela. Like, this is just a crazy story, but I'm happy to connect through Instagram. I run an account, Go and Do Good. My email address is just my name, Meg@GoAndDoGood, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. And I do calls with families just to help them start their path to do this as well.
Aslam and I, we watch lots of your stories on Instagram, and they're very valuable because you share a lot of detail that many people don't think about. And when it comes to cost especially, I've seen lots of stories in there. And what do you think about the cost of moving to Spain?
Okay, so to be honest, people are very surprised, both Madrid and the Costa del Sol, how expensive it can be. Okay, there are less expensive areas than the Costa del Sol or Madrid to choose for your family. There's great pueblos and different towns you can choose. But I mean, we're talking about a rental of an apartment and things. We're looking at like 2,000 euros to up to 4,000. I know a family that's renting at 6,000 euros for a month now.
Is that a mansion?
No. So for Americans, like you just need to be aware that I think some people think, oh, it's not the US. And so, oh, it's going to be, you know, $500 a month and I'm going to save all this money. For the first couple of years, it was more of like a break even for us. It wasn't a huge cost savings. Housing can be very expensive. Food and things like eating out can be much more reasonable because you don't tip. You know, that 20% American tip really adds up. But depending on your grocery store, just like in the US, if I went to a lower end grocery store compared to like a Whole Foods in the US, my bill would be different. Here, I'm a Supercore girl because El Corte Inglés for life, but that's on the higher end, so I budget for that, right? But you can go to a Lidl or an Aldi and save money. So I think it's really important that people have a financial planner. I work with a financial planner for people moving to Spain, so they can put together a projection and just say like, okay, how much am I going to spend per month? How much money is coming in? I think the biggest cost besides rent that people don't think about is renting a car. Because in the Costa del Sol, if you don't own a car, you have to rent one. It's just not connected to the train at all. If you're outside of Malaga, you have to have a car. So when we lived in Madrid, we rented one car for the two of us, and it was about 600 euros, so about $700 US per month. So that's really the second biggest cost to think about. Again, you only need one, but still it's a cost. And gas here is very expensive compared to the US.
Really?
Yeah, because cars are small. We used to have those big farm trucks, and it was more expensive here to fill up our small car than it was in the US because they import the gas here, where the gas is local in the US.
Of course.
And so those kind of costs are just one of the things that we talk about when we meet, because I'm like, I want to make sure you have a realistic guess on what you'll spend per month here.
I want to talk about the cultural shock, because living in the UK for 18 years, and even when I have my friends coming over from the UK to Spain to visit, one of the things they say is like, oh, Spanish people, they don't say many thank yous, they don't say many please, and they're very loud. Or even when I'm on the phone with my mom, we speak very loud in southern Spain. It's like you're having an argument with your mom. I say, no, I'm just talking about how's your day been. So when it comes to obviously coming from the US, what's the cultural shock that most impacted you?
Yeah, I think for me, and I already mentioned a little bit about friendships and how hard they were, but this is kind of cultural, but I didn't realize that Spanish people aren't really looking to add you to their circle. Like they have their tias and their tío, they have their cousins. They already have a friend group since elementary school. And it's very hard as a foreigner to kind of get into that circle.
Yeah.
I think it helps a lot if you're either married to someone who's Spanish, or now that we're more Spanish speaking, it can help a little bit. But that's a shock to me. I think you think, because they're so friendly, like, oh, we're gonna do things together. But the truth is you may not be invited even though they're friendly. So that was a culture shock to me. This is really a silly one, but this is what came in my mind. I think for people who are like sensitive to blood or gore and things, okay, so stick with me. It's pretty sometimes so different, the grocery stores or the carnicerias, or you can see like at our local butcher here in Cancelada, there is a whole sheep hanging by its hooves, right? Like bloody and dead. And so you're coming in just to mind your own business and get some chicken, right? And you're like, hola, ¿qué tal? I'm in my dress. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, like in the US that would have been cleaned up and not out for everyone. So those are like the little things. Another huge cultural shock, honestly, is the cigarettes. We're gonna go there. We're gonna have to go there. I always go there. You know, I think that in the US, less people smoke actual cigarettes. Like I think they vape probably, but there's so much more cigarette usage in Spain in general. So a lot of times you're just enjoying an outdoor eating session, right, with your kids or whatever, and there's just a lot of cigarette smoke. And so those are some of the de-romanticized things I say of living in Spain, like because like we already said, it's not perfect. That are not necessarily threats to my safety or health, but they're more just like inconvenience. I think it's important to point out too that there are cultural differences in different areas of Spain. Like Madrid is so different than the Costa del Sol. I'm still like reeling over the fact that people are so casual here. Where I will wear this dress to bike to pick our kids up at school because that's what you do in Madrid, you know? And so like seeing someone in a bathing suit cover up in September at the grocery store makes me be like, I can't. Like it's just so different because in Madrid, you are dressed to the nines to go to the grocery store. So I think you have to really know about the area. That's why it's important to speak with someone in advance, to get to know what city you're looking at, because it may not mesh with your family.
Thank you so much for your time. I mean, your advice and experience is going to help a lot of people who are watching this video right now. And I'm very confident that many people watching this video will be contacting you and you're going to be very busy.
Join the club. Yes. If you are a family who's not sure what to do, right, or what step to take, just take a step forward, a small step forward in the direction. Visit Spain, come for a month, right? Start a process of a visa. Just do something, and I promise you.
The beauty of Spain is that it's a very diverse country. The north of Spain is very different to the south of Spain. The north of Spain, it reminds you a bit of the northern European countries. It's a bit cooler, it's a bit greener, and there's a lot of mountains over there. When you compare it to the south, in the south, it's a lot warmer, it's a bit flatter in some regions, but for example, here in Costa del Sol, there's a lot of mountains, and it tends to be a lot drier than in the north.
Cold weather, you have hot weather, you have desert, you have mountain, you have beaches, you have Pueblo Blancos. It's just very varied climate and culture and
exactly. So
atmosphere.
It depends on your needs, like what is that you're after.
Next big thing in your mind must be that if you move to Spain, how are you going to survive? Would you be able to work here, find work here? The economy of Spain is booming. It's actually one of the fastest growing economy in Europe for the last few years, actually. Spain has had one of the highest unemployment rates in Europe. It has been coming down. Last year, it was 11.20%. And this year, it has come down to 10.29%, which is a great achievement, but still a long way to go from the European average, which is actually about 5.6% to 6%.
When it comes to the more regional areas, especially in the coastal areas, you're looking at more seasonal work, meaning hotels, restaurants, pubs, beach clubs, those sort of jobs. Not many people want to do them because it's long hours, very long hours, very exhausting. It's very limited if you want to come to, for example, Costa del Sol, what can you find here? So then it goes into the hands of the entrepreneur. If you want to open your own business and you want to be self-employed, like we are self-employed here in Spain, but being self-employed in Spain is very difficult. Actually, this is a very good point to talk about taxes in Spain. They tax you for everything. And when I lived in the UK for 18 years, I thought that was bad. With the council tax, with this tax, or TV licenses. We don't have TV licenses in Spain. We don't have council tax in Spain. but you also get taxed from €1. So there is no, like in the UK, you have that personal allowance. Thank you. The personal allowance, I think, is from £12,000 or £13,000 is free tax. No, in Spain they tax you from 1 cent. And if you are autonomo or self-employed, it doesn't matter how much you earn. You still have to pay tax and you still have to pay national insurance. There are some schemes available depending on the region, so it's not available in the entire country. So for example, we are based in Andalusia. If you start your business or if you are self-employed, for the first year, you can actually benefit from what they call tarifa plana. Basically meaning that regardless of how much you earn, you can actually just pay €87 a month, which is currently set at, rather than 200 or 300 euros a month as it was before.
For national insurance, not profits.
Just a national insurance.
Traditionally, you would be finding jobs in hospitality sectors, but for the last 4 or 5 years, there have been more investment in IT and AI stuff and future technologies. And places like Madrid and Barcelona have tech valleys and
Malaga as well.
And now Malaga as well. What I would also suggest is that western side of Costa del Sol is right next to Gibraltar, which is a British overseas territory, and it's very popular for gaming and insurances. So you can live just outside Gibraltar and commute into Gibraltar for those high-end jobs as well.
I really want to talk about the cost of living because it's the headline everywhere in the world. It's not just in the US or in the UK. Also, many people, when they come to Spain on holidays, many of our friends that come from the UK to Spain, they say, oh, I'm looking forward to go to Spain because it's much cheaper there. I was like, well...
because when people come here on holidays, they see the prices of alcohol and tobacco compared to the UK. It's quite cheap, just those two things. But apart from that, your daily groceries are more or less the same everywhere.
And it's not just a supermarket. One thing that you will hear in the news constantly is the price of property and renting. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Every month keeps going up another 2% and 3%.
If you give the example of where we live right now, 3 years ago, we got this property for €950 a month. But if you were to get this property today from the market, they start from €1,600 a month. Luckily, Spain has rent protection, meaning that you cannot increase the rent by more than the inflation rate.
And that's what you're seeing a lot around all of Spain, really. All of Spain, especially...
You have more precious areas like Costa del Sol, Madrid, Barcelona.
Balearic Islands.
Yeah.
And you see the pressure a little more, but it's impacting a lot. And one thing...
That's the biggest cost you have. Because, apart from that, everything else is...
You have to have a roof over your head.
Yeah.
And this is a very important topic that I want to discuss now. That is a new proposal by the Spanish government. You probably heard in the news, 100% tax for non-EU. So we don't really understand all the ins and outs, because I don't think many people know the ins and outs of this new proposal.
I don't think that's even been explained in detail, apart from the fact that they have said it's going to be for non-EU, it's going to be 100% tax on the property price, but it's just at the moment it's just in the talking phase, so it's not been approved. But just by talking about this has put like a pressure on the people moving from abroad. But keep in mind, it's not telling you that if you're coming from the UK or US, which is outside the EU, if you buy a property, you're not going to pay 100% tax if you move here first. If you move here, then you're a resident. It's for non-EU, non-resident only.
Mainly investors. We cannot talk about cost of living without mentioning life outdoors. Because in Spain, we love going for tapas, having a glass of wine. And if you come to Spain, it's because you want to be outdoor, having a glass of wine, having some tapas. And I would say to that, the price...
It's a hit and miss.
It's a hit and miss,
because you have, especially in Costa del Sol, where lots of tourists come. So you have lots of tourist-focused, high-end places. But again, on this next door, you also have like bar, like typical Spanish bar being run by abuelo for 40-odd years, and they're serving main dishes for €11. So it's available. You just have to keep exploring, and the quality all around, more or less, is good.
Just to give you a rough idea of how much we spend monthly, we are just 2 people, so keep in mind that it's a family of 4. The prices will be slightly larger or higher. So we pay approximately €1,000 a month in rent. Then when it comes to water, I don't understand why we pay so little, but we pay approximately we pay 10 euros a month on water.
Don't tell them they're gonna change.
I think it's because we have a water reservoir, and that helps a lot in a development.
Yeah, development.
And then for electricity, we pay approximately 70 euros a month.
Yeah, that includes aircon in summer.
Yeah.
And
we have been putting the fan.
But not all nights.
No, not all night, but we have been using the aircon. And we have had lots of family and friends coming over, using the aircon, using the telly, using the showers, etc. So 70 euros, not bad. Then for...
No gas, because it's electric only.
Good. And also for car insurance, we pay approximately 40 euros a month, which is very cheap. When it comes to internet, we pay 24 euros a month. Then the usual Netflix, Prime, Apple TV, and Disney Plus. That is around 60, 70. Altogether, it's probably around 80 euros a month altogether. And for supermarket, again, we don't really buy alcohol. We don't buy anything like expensive.
Lots of sweets.
We buy lots of sweets because, if you know us, we love cakes.
But on the other hand, we do most of the cooking at home.
Roughly, we spend around 400 euros a month on supermarket. Approximately, depending if we go out or if we go some shopping, etc. It's between 1,700 to 2,000 euros a month. That's how we spend.
That leads us to the next point, which is lifestyle here in Spain. I myself am a very outdoor person. For me, it's a perfect country because it's got lots of different kind of topography. By our house is a river, which I normally go for running. I'm quite enjoying living here. The only problem I'm facing is that I'm not making as many friends down to because of my language skills, which are getting there. I understand nearly about 90% of Spanish, but speaking-wise, I speak about 20% when it comes to speaking because I haven't had much practice, to be honest. But on the apps, I'm learning, and hopefully I will get there as well.
As you mentioned before, is the outdoor living. We tried to do that in the UK, but sometimes it was raining and it was very muddy, and I hated it. But here, we find ourselves like being in the summer, we go a lot to the beach.
I mean, tomorrow is 1st of October and we are still like in summer clothes at the moment. And this is the main thing about living in Andalusia that I enjoy the most is the longer hours of sunshine, of the light. Natural light has made such a big impact on my mood and on my general outlook on life.
And I would say that I've noticed as well, I'm walking a lot more. You cannot really get bored of this because there are so many things to do. Like you go to Estepona, loads to do. You go to Cadiz, lots of history, lots of monuments, and that's free. Yeah. And you can just walk around with your family. And if you come with your kids, it's healthy living for them as well.
Healthcare in Spain is actually one of the best healthcare systems in the world. And once you move to Spain, the first year you have to get the private health insurance. And after that, once you live here and you are paying into tax system, you do qualify for National Health Service, which is free of cost.
However, you're going to have a lot of people disagreeing with me because of the waiting time. So it's not what it used to be. And I think to understand that, you have to live in both sides. like I know in Spain it's not perfect and it's going a bit down. It's not what it used to be. And I think that's the case everywhere in the world. However, it's free. It's one of the best ones in the world still. I broke my toe last Christmas. I broke my toe. I went to the hospital on Christmas Eve, or not, on the 23rd, sorry, on the 23rd of December. In Estepona. And within an hour and a half, I went in, registered myself, I saw the nurse, they did the x-ray, I had the results, they put the thing they had to put in my foot. That was actually under an hour and a half. Yeah. So I've heard of people having to wait even 6 months to a year to have an operation. And yes, there are cases like that, but in our experience,
emergency has been great.
So when it comes to hospitals and healthcare in Spain, I will give it 10 out of 10. Moving to Spain can be difficult, can be easy. It depends on your circumstances. So I hope the information we have provided you in this video helps you. We might not have answered every single question that you have. And if we haven't, please feel free to send us a message below. We might not have the answer for you right away, but we'll make sure to at least point you in the right direction or to the right contacts.